All right, welcome in. It is Wednesday. It's time for full court press. Rob Vino, before we even get into it, I went 3-1 last night. I was 5 seconds away from going 4-0. Missouri gave up a basket to Georgia with 5 seconds left, but I can't complain. I'll take the 3-1 night. And I'm just telling the folks that I'm probably going to start letting the 5%ers rip here in college basketball. I've only had one all season, but I have back-to-back winning days, and there's probably going to be a couple in the coming days, maybe even today. Haven't decided yet. But that's my promo to hop on our package, the double the firepower CBB package, myself and Rob, because you're probably going to get a couple 5%ers in the next couple days. So it's already a great deal. When you start to do the math on what WagerTalk charges for the 5%ers, it becomes a very good deal if you know you're going to get at least one or two of those. So quick promo to start it off. And Rob, I don't know if you checked your texts, but I chose the feature game tonight, the Drew Martin Degenerate Special, 11 p.m. Eastern, Fox Sports 1, and I sent you a picture of the Grand Canyon student section from when I was there last year. It truly might be I think it was Rick Pitino, one of the big time coaches, said that like he's never experienced anything like that. It was someone that's played there recently. It really is insane. Like it's the craziest atmosphere I've ever seen for how small the building is. So it's only about 5,500 people that fit in there. They've literally, so that space was smaller, right? Like Grand Canyon came from the WAC. They have put a seat, Rob, in every possible crevice of that building. So they're like maxed out on seating capacity. Every single one will be full. If you watched Fox Sports 1 on Saturday afternoon, you'll know what I'm talking about because they were out in full force for that game and they knocked off Utah State, a ranked win for Grand Canyon. Tonight, they get another big name. San Diego State might not have the number by their name this year, Rob, but they're still a pretty good team. And I think Grand Canyon's now getting a little bit more respect than they were 3 days ago with this number. So looks like no Magoon Guath, but San Diego State hitting the road in front of the Havocs. Phoenix, Arizona tonight. How are you seeing this one?
Let's start there. No Magoon Guath is a big deal, I think, in this instance. Big center for San Diego State and multi-talented, multi-skilled, I should say, center. A couple of those out there in the Mountain West. San Diego State, I saw them play against New Mexico the other day. Another win for San Diego State. Every day, it seems like every time I turn on San Diego State, I'm impressed. When I don't watch them, it seems like you get a mediocre result. But a couple of times I've seen them, obviously a well-rounded team. I think a little bit more capable of scoring this year under Brian Dutcher. They showed that again Saturday with 83 points. Reese Dixon Waters been very, very good for them this year. A couple of things in this one. I would think, San Diego State at their core is still the same fundamental type of team. They still want to go to the glass. They still want to play good defense, especially half-court defense. And Grand Canyon, to an extent, Adam, is somewhat the same. They rebound especially well on the defensive end, sitting at 29th in the nation, which if San Diego State doesn't get some second chances here, could be in a little bit of trouble. SD State, that's going to be a really good matchup, as a matter of fact. San Diego State's offensive board work against Grand Canyon's defensive board work. The Utah State win, you wonder if that loss didn't trigger Utah State to lose twice. Lost to UNLV last night in another great game. I would say this. I really like the San Diego State team from what I've seen, but I'm expecting more of a defensive-natured game in this one. Total here sits at 143.5, probably a good spot for this game, but I think it's probably going to stay under. The side is difficult for me to pick. I will say this, as I said off the top, I think Guath is a big deal. It helps Grand Canyon rebounding-wise. He's a definite force. Side is difficult. I'm staring here. San Diego State -1. Grand Canyon now -1 in a lot of places, but 143.5 sticks out to me as a total that might be a little bit too high. So again, and I know we got some complaints about this yesterday, Adam, where we analyze, but then give a didn't bet the game. But we don't bet every game, guys. I mean, if we bet every game, it would be, you don't have pockets deep enough to bet every single game in college basketball. This one, I could come to a conclusion a little later. It is a late start, 11 o'clock. But right now, I would say I lean toward under 143.5, and what I think should be a pretty solid defensive battle between these two teams.
I can't stress this enough. We do not get paid to do this show. So we can't just come here and give everything out. That's why you gotta grab the double the firepower CBB package, because you're going to get a lot more games in there than you're going to get the games we actually pick. But Rob, we still come out and give out picks on the show. Listen, I live in New York. That Bills Stadium isn't paying for itself. We're paying for it, right? I don't know why, because they have billionaire owners, but we're paying for the Bills Stadium. So you got to buy the package. That's just it is what it is. But we're going to come out here and talk about an hour's worth of games, 6 or 7 games. And the point is, it's not always to give a pick, because sometimes there's a good game, a great matchup like this, where there's not something that's like so clear cut, in my opinion. I truly believe this game is going to be decided on who can avoid the drought offensively. I am confident in saying someone is going to have an offensive drought, if not both, which makes me lean your way with the under. Thing is, like, neither of these two teams are great. They're not super consistent shooting the basketball. So it's like San Diego State, they've kind of shot it well of late, but this is an environment where I could see them maybe having a cold stretch. Utah State had a cold stretch the other day in that game, and San Diego State's a lesser offensive team than them. But that's ultimately my biggest problem with Grand Canyon is they're just not going to torch you from distance. And, that to me comes up here some way. I don't know which team. I don't think you can really know which team has the 5-minute scoring drought. My best take here is someone's going to have that drought. I like the Grand Canyon side. The atmosphere is going to be incredible. I could see them winning another game here, but at the same time, you could talk me into this being a little bit of a letdown. You come out, you knock off the ranked Utah State team. You got kids rushing the floor. It was incredible. But now you got to do it a couple of games later. Maybe you take San Diego State a little bit for granted because they aren't that ranked San Diego State team from years past. So Rob Vino, I'm with you here. I think that the thing I can bank on the most is that these are two teams. San Diego State's very good defensively, but Grand Canyon does not shoot the ball well, and they're not super consistent in making shots. I think the same thing could be said for San Diego State. So I'm going to go with an under here as well. I like the under in this game. And we are going 3-teamer again today. I know it lost yesterday, but we got it. Listen, Rob and I split every 2-team parlay last week. I think we went 1-1 on every single one. So now we're chasing a couple units. So we got to get aggressive. It's time we got to get that parlay payoff. So it will be a 3-teamer. I don't know what we'll do for the third leg of it. We'll decide as the show goes on. Yesterday we did a joint leg. Maybe someone will step up and be like, hey, I got this. I got the third winner, and we'll go with that. Garth says Grand Canyon ranks 330th in the country from 3. Yeah, that doesn't really get easier against San Diego State. Am I right, Rob? That doesn't get easier against San Diego State.
Especially on the road. We talk about how defense travels, Adam. And again, rim protection could be it will be lesser for San Diego State without Guath, but they pressure the basketball up top so well that a lot of times you can't even get into the paint. So we'll see how it goes. But it does set up as a really good defensive battle. One last thing on San Diego State. 6 of their last 8 games, believe it or not, they have shot 50% or better from the field. That seems like a real outlier statistic for this team that, overall doesn't shoot that well. They've been pretty good lately, but going into this environment, I don't think it's going to be 50%. So again, we'll look at under. And let me just, before we get to the next game, Adam, I'll say really quick, you mentioned the parlay. My apologies for having TCU as my leg of the parlay last night or yesterday, the TCU team total over. However, Adam was talking about packages before, 4-2 in college basketball last night. What I gave out on the show lost. Everything I had for clients, that was the only thing that lost for clients because we had 4 other winners last night. So again, double the CBB firepower. The powers that be will love us for promoting so much. But it was a nice night, and it just can't always be a winner here on the show. But certainly it's why you look for the rest of our stuff.
It never fails, Rob Vino. 3-1 for me last night, college basketball. The 1 was the one I picked for $5 Tuesday. Yeah. So I'm sure everyone is thrilled. All right. Garth, Thank you for the donation. I'm glad you brought this game up. It's one I wanted to talk about. There was actually a scenario. My schedule got moved around, but I made some pals in Tulsa, and I am going to try to get out there for a game at some point this year. This one was one I kind of had circled. I'm glad I'm not going to Tulsa because it looks like the Midwest is going to get absolutely pummeled with snow over the next couple days. I leave Central New York to not deal with snow. So once there's snow in the Midwest, Trig is out. But this would be a great game to attend. Memphis heading to Tulsa. Tulsa, I've said it on the show a couple of times. I really like this team. And you look at the AAC and a lot of these teams that kind of underwhelm in this league. And Tulsa, for me, is up there in terms of like who I think could have a real chance to be at or near the top when it's all said and done this year. I don't hate the matchup here for them, Rob Vino, but man, that spread was a little bit bigger than I expected it to be. Of course, Penny Hardaway, Memphis, they get a lot of love as an underdog. Maybe they will by the market again here. We'll see. But Garth wants to know, Tulsa, Memphis, he's looking at the over 153.5. I'll tell you what, Garth, if Tulsa shoots the way they did on this road trip, you're probably going to get there. Rob, you're the totals guy. What do you think? Tulsa, Memphis, over 153.5.
Yeah, and Memphis put them in the category for myself where I think I said this last week. They are so sporadic with what they do in the totals market as far as their results are concerned that I find them hard to gauge. It was Sunday afternoon, right? Because the AAC played on Sunday afternoon. They played UTSA.
Thank God. No one else did. Thank God. Yeah.
they played UTSA. And I wanted to get to the over because UTSA is so bad defensively, so bad that I thought, Memphis is probably a game where they break out. They're off of a 55-53 against Temple. I think it was very low scoring game, which makes no sense to be 55-53 with Tulsa, but that's just, or with Temple, excuse me, but that's just Memphis. And they come out and score 95 points. So they're so sporadic. They're hard to gauge in their seesaw world, Adam. And again, this is such exterior handicapping, but exterior handicapping pays as well. When I say seesaw, play them over, play them under, play them over, play them under, just up, down, against Tulsa, which is a pretty decent defensive team, but a far better offensive team. Maybe Memphis comes out here and struggles shooting again. This is a strange team that plays at different tempos at different times. Scores low, scores high, but Tulsa's been really consistent. I'm with you. Somebody really loves Tulsa. I mean, maybe Paul Pressey back from 1981 has huge pockets and is pounding the alma mater here for Tulsa. Nolan Richardson money out there. I think that this line might be a little bit too high. I'm going to disagree with Garth here, and I seldom do, but I think this game probably stays under. Again, it's a clash of the top of the conference. Surprising to me that Tulsa already has a pair of losses. Memphis 4-1 here. I think that probably this game ends up in like the 76-73 range, which puts you at 149. It's not enough to climb the mountain and get over the top. The Tulsa side money, I would love to agree with it, but I don't know that I want to lay 6.5 in this instance, Adam. I like the Tulsa backcourt. I like the way they're able to score, but I do like Memphis's defense and athleticism at all times in this league. And I think that defense and athleticism causes some teams, a majority of the teams in this conference, some problems on the offensive end. So again, I'm going to go with back-to-back unders here. Wow, that might be the first time on any show where I've ever recommended back-to-back unders. But to me, this number is just a little bit too high at 153.5.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I thought the line was like maybe a touch high at 4.5, 5. Now you're looking at 6.5 some places. Yeah. I know that the students are back. I know that they expect their biggest crowd of the year to date or for this season at this game. So, definitely going to be a good atmosphere relative to what their typical sort of home game is. So you should have I guess you're going to give them full marks for home court. Is it worth enough to make them a 6-point favorite here? That's a little tough for me. I'd love to know the status of Miles Rigsby. He hasn't played the last couple games, but something I will note about Tulsa, my cousin who I was with, so I was at the North Texas Tulsa game a couple weeks ago. Tough loss for Tulsa. it was more North Texas making big shot after big shot in the final like 6 to 7 minutes of that game, in my opinion, than it was Tulsa like playing poorly or like playing to lose. It was just North Texas hit three after three, big shot after big shot to win that game 72-67. They turn around and lose to South Florida, but like that's not, I mean, South Florida was the team that I thought would win this league coming into this year. So I don't really dock Tulsa too much for a road loss at the Super Pit and then losing to South Florida. Don't know the status of Rigsby, but he's been out the last couple games. Don't know that it matters a ton because this team is very deep. Cousin is good friends with Jalen Lawal's dad. And so that's kind of why we've followed the team closely. Jalen Lawal's a freshman. And it's like, you know, I think he's played well at times, and he's had a hard time getting on the court for more than 10 to 12 minutes because they have a deep team. This was a team that didn't know. I don't think they knew they were getting David Green. I think that was one of the scenarios, Rob, where he ended up with an extra year of eligibility that he didn't know he would have. So there's some of these around college basketball this year. The notable one, the one that's like will come to everyone's mind, is Tyon Grant Foster, who's now at Gonzaga, kind of maneuvered his way into that extra year. Freddie Hicks at Tarleton State. There's a couple. I think David Green was one of those guys. Great player at Rhode Island. Tulsa gets him, and he's their best player. I mean, he really is like upperclassman, leading the team in scoring 16.7 points per game. So I don't know that the market is even like, I think the market has caught up, but I think this Tulsa team's very, very good. I can only bet Tulsa here. I don't want any part of Memphis on the road. Memphis as an underdog hasn't been that great this year. I think some of the Penny Hardaway underdog magic has worn off a little bit. 1-3 against the spread as a dog on the road here. Maybe this is one where you try to pair Tulsa with another money line in that range to make yourself a little money line parlay, because I really like them to win here. But man, it's tough to lay 6. That's a big number. Okay, yeah, I see you guys in the listen. Like and subscribe. We very much appreciate it. This show will be up live and on demand. You know, the likes, subscribes, and the comments in the show, which I am contractually obligated to answer. Apparently, there's no contract for that. It's just Kelly Stewart will be blowing me up if I do not answer your comment. So hop in the show comments, drop us a comment. I may even throw another handicap out for a game in there. You never know. You ask, I'll probably give an answer. That's how it goes. Let's go to a different game. Billy Humphreys says, anyone on Creighton tonight at home? -7 against Xavier. Rob Vino, we're back in the Big East, where it's just, once you get past UConn and maybe St. John's, it's a lot of mediocrity in this conference. Xavier has to hit the road, go out to Omaha. I would say we would probably both agree that this is the toughest, logistically the toughest trip in this conference. I still think the toughest trip in this conference is having to go to Storrs, Connecticut. But -7, Creighton at home tonight. What do you have here, Xavier, Creighton?
Well, I think you can, obviously I'll get on a different track here because I think you can assume points, especially from the Creighton side in this game. As we're speaking here, I'm very tempted, Adam, to use this, and maybe I will as we speak. The Creighton team total here is 80.5. To me, and I'm always, you know, you do this long enough and you go down the board each and every day and immediately something will grab your attention. Like, that's off. That's not right. That's wrong. And when I see 80.5 for Creighton, I just feel like that's wrong. Xavier, we've seen very little on the defensive end. Creighton gets back home now after playing Providence in the 93-88. But how about Creighton's output offensively ever since, you know, beginning of the season? We talked about their struggles, not the same team. A couple of transfers here, including from Iowa, Josh Dix. Now, all of a sudden, 88 against Providence on the road, 86 against Georgetown, 73 against a very good defensive team in St. John, 76 against Nova, et cetera, et cetera. They've become a pretty good offensive force, and Xavier puts up little resistance. It's not a good defensive team, 253 against the twos as far as national statistics are concerned. Creighton can get inside now. I think Creighton's found a lot of ways to score, Adam, that they didn't have in the beginning. Now, some of that could be product of a subpar Big East, you're not really facing, aside from Seton Hall, aside from St. John's, aside from UConn, it's hard to find defenses that you would regard as tough in the Big East. Xavier certainly doesn't qualify, and they qualify even less on the road. They play at tempo, which Creighton, for what it's worth, will choose to play faster at home than they do on the road. I think that's just been a philosophy of Greg McDermott for a long, long time as head coach of this team. But we know Richard Pitino is going to get up and down. You're going to get these scoring opportunities. You've got, a good shooting team at this point in time, or at least a higher scoring team at this point against a pretty bad road defense. As far as Big East statistics are concerned, just looking at my notes here on the Xavier game. As far as Big East is concerned, Xavier sits 10th in this conference, 9th in defensive efficiency. To me, Adam, this number is way too low for a game that I think is going to go over anyway, because Xavier will put their share up. So, wow, I keep hemming and hawing here because I'm making a firm decision, but I think I write it down. I want to use Creighton team total over 80.5, 10-21 a little early in the show, but I don't know that I'm going to find anything better as we speak here than what I'm looking at right now. So Creighton team total over 80.5 will be one leg of the parlay today. I just don't think that's a good number. I think that's a weak number, very light, and Creighton should end up in the 84, 85 vicinity in this game.
Rob Vino, are you okay making that our joint leg, and then you'll still have one left for later?
Oh, sure.
Because I wanted to find, so what was that total? What was the number again? Over what?
80.5. So we need 81 to win.
Yeah, I'll go with that. The reason is, I think Creighton probably destroys Xavier in this spot. I wasn't sure if I wanted to lay 7. Xavier has not played since I bet against them last week, so they've had 7 days off. Jacob says it's at 81.5 now. We'll double check toward the end of the show. We're not going to lock the parlay in toward the end of the show. So if we have to take one number worse, I think it's fine. I'll leave that to Rob to follow up and let you know if there's still value at 81.5. But I guess the reason I'm looking at the Creighton side, Xavier last week, they get back-to-back wins. On Friday, Providence was without, why can't I remember his name? Jones. Jameer Jones did not play in the game against Xavier. Xavier ran up 97 points in a win over Providence. They come back. They drop 89 on Butler. I was on Butler in that game. It was just an atrocious effort from Butler. I think they were in that lull of having lost a couple games straight. Couldn't really break out of it. Of course, since then, Butler broke out of it, go on the road, upset Seton Hall. You have your Xavier. You have to come all the way across the country. That was a nice setup for them last week, back-to-back home games. Now you got to take this team on the road that I've described this year as a year 0 type team. Richard Pitino has been on Twitter, almost keeping the mood light. Okay. I think he knows that this is a very young team. I think he's got to be thrilled with the effort at home last week. But when they go and get run out by 30 in Creighton or in a road game, I just don't think it's the end of the world for this team right now. I think there's, they're building something. Pitino is trying to build this from the ground up. I looked at this Xavier roster coming into the year, didn't think there was a ton of talent. Creighton coming into the year, I thought would be better. They've certainly had their struggles, but their results recently have not been terrible. The win at Nova is a decent win for them. They beat St. John's over on Friday night at Providence. That was a very desperate spot for Providence. And to Providence's credit, I know we've ripped them on the show a bunch, Rob Vino. They could still put the ball in the basket, and that is exactly what they did. 93 points on Creighton over the weekend. So I think, to your point, Creighton probably does need to score to cover this spread, right? Because I don't think Creighton's defense has been anything to write home about either. They play the way they used to with Kalkbrenner, but he's not there anymore. So they're giving up. They still can get scored on, I would say, in this game. So because I like the Creighton side, don't really know how to play it, I'm going to join forces with you here. Let's go team total over. And do you want to follow up and just talk about like maybe where the cutoff is for that?
Yeah, I was, as soon as that was mentioned to me, and just so the chat knows, for wager talk purposes, we do use a consensus line to try and be fair to everybody because these numbers are scattered across 35 different books outlets that we have at our disposal here with the line service. The consensus number is 80.5, but I will say, Adam, that there's a huge amount of 81.5s out there, and those 81.5s are mostly at places that are easily accessible for the masses. So I think in fairness, 80.5 does come up as the consensus, but I know a lot of people don't have accounts where a lot of these 80.5s are. So either way, I would say in fairness to the chat, we would use 81.5 because that's more than likely the place or places that they're going to be able to get action down on this game at this point. But it has jumped 81. I see a place right now going to 82.5. So please, 81.5 is where we'll use the cutoff, but we'd like you to get in and not wait till tip off when it's 83 and say you guys blew that.
Yeah. Listen, I do think, as always, shop around. You're always going to want to shop around, especially on team totals. I think if it was to get out of hand, you could just go Creighton money line in the parlay and just take less odds. Like, I think that would be a reasonable way to pivot if, like, suddenly the team total got so far away from it. Now, if you do play at some of these more, we'll call it legal public type books, you can probably just adjust the team total in your parlay. I do think it's allowed. So you can just knock it down a little bit, which is totally fine in a parlay. All right, let's move on. We'll go to Garth. Appreciate the donation. And I know this is so Rob Bino, I have a pretty good memory. My memory is sharp. And I remember when we talked about this game the first time around, you liked Murray State. I can't remember if you used it as a client play or if it was a part of the parlay. They smashed Drake in that game. And I remember vividly talking about it on the show. I believe they were like a 6.5 point home favorite in that game. Drake made a couple shots at the end, but Murray State pulled away. I remember you liking the matchup a lot for Murray State in that game. Drake says his favorite play of the slate is Murray State -5.5. Drake is 2-6 against the spread at home. Drake's just not very good in general. This is really has been very much a transition year. Obviously, Ben McCollum goes to Iowa. I think Eric Henderson's a good coach, but he's been up against a little bit of tough luck injury-wise. Is there any different outcome in the rematch, or do you like Murray State again here?
Murray State has been so dominant in conference play so far, Adam, that I don't know that I could like any other way than them. I would almost say that the Indiana State game the other night might have been a slight look ahead, knowing that they had to go on the road and play Drake in the rematch after winning by 9 at home. I agree with a ton of what you said where Drake is concerned, kind of a transition year. I don't know that cohesion has been formed yet. They lose to Illinois Chicago the other day. In past years, Drake wouldn't be losing to Illinois Chicago, right? But now they are. It's a different style. It's a different team. It allows Murray State, let me put it this way. It allows Murray State to do what they do best this year, which is play with pace and score. And nobody in this league has stopped Murray State from scoring. It will be so interesting. And I'm waiting, and I'm a little bit nervous being having or paying a lot of attention to Belmont basketball. As I've said before, my oldest son went there, so I've been a fan of Belmont for quite a while. The Murray State Belmont game is going to be something when those two hook up. But here, I just don't know that Drake has gotten to the level they need to get at yet, while Murray State has been absolutely steamrolling teams. And to Ryan Miller's credit, Adam, there's really been no letdown in this team. I know they only won by 4 against Indiana State the other day, but there really hasn't been a letdown here. They've rattled off. In fact, as I look here, it's now the nation's 5th longest active win streak, 12 games in a row. And one thing you can depend on here is they're going to score the basketball. There's game film, obviously, from first time around that Drake can go to. Question is, can you stop it? And I don't know that they can stop it at this point in time. So I would agree. Murray State, even on the road, 5.5 might be. I'm going to get too carried away here. I mean, they probably can win by 7+, You only have to win by 6+, but they could probably make it by 7+ here. I would say Murray State's likely the right side. I'm just trying to look at the total here real quick. It shows it. Yeah, wow, that's 159.5 is a little high, Garth, if you're interested in total here as well, or anybody who is. 159.5 could be, as well as Murray State scoring, that could be a little high in this game. It's come off of 161, but I think Murray State's the right side for sure.
Murray State feels incredibly too easy. I don't see how they don't just rip Drake here. Like, honestly, I don't do this very often. I'm never going to release these for clients, but a Tulsa money line to Murray State money line parlay. Tell me how that loses. I mean, there's just, you know what I mean? Like, if the market's going to move 2 points to Tulsa, and then you got Murray State here just needing a win. The other thing with Drake that I'll point out. Okay, this is Henderson's first year. When I looked at this roster coming into the year, I thought Owen Larson was the one guy that stuck out to be a truly, like, I thought, he's, when you look at the rest of the roster, he's their best player. Everything's going to sort of revolve around him. And what happened was he started the season hurt. Month and a half, 2 months go by. He came over with Henderson from South Dakota State. So I just don't think he's really truly, like, even though he's back playing, Rob, I don't think he's ever really gotten in the mix with this team. He's not efficient at all. I mean, he's up to playing 32 minutes a game. Last game, 1 for 6 from 3. He doesn't score a ton. Doesn't really do much. Rebounds, he doesn't, 1 assist. Like, he's out there for 32 minutes a game, but like, what does he really do? Right. So that was supposed to be your best player. On top of that, Will Exact Day. I'm again just butchering names left and right. I think it's Exact. I think it's how it's pronounced. But he hasn't played since the Illinois State game. So he's been out for 5 games. He's probably been one of the more impactful players on this team. So I think this is kind of becoming a throwaway year for Drake. I still think they get credit for the name on the front of the jersey. I think they get credit for playing at home. And I don't think they're in the same stratosphere right now as Murray State. So it feels easy, feels too easy, but maybe it is. That's the thing with college basketball. Sometimes, this isn't like the other sports. Sometimes, like, there's so many games on the board that sometimes there's one out there, especially in a smaller league, where it just is like a gift, right? And I would not be, I hate to use that term, but I would not be surprised if we showed up tomorrow morning and we were all like, wow, Murray State -5.5 was kind of a gift, because I'd really be surprised if they don't just rip Drake here. Like, the ball would have to be going in, you'd have to get a couple banked in threes here for Drake to hang around in this game. I just think Murray State's so much better. And my number's like right in line with that. But as I think it through, I'm just like, no, Larson hasn't done anything. Exact hasn't played in 5 games. How does Drake hang with Murray State? So, Garth, I'm with you right there. Murray State -5.5 makes a ton of sense.
Real quick to Garth, Drake, 8 Missouri Valley games so far this season. They've shot over 45% from the field 1 time in 8 games already, just to show you the offense is going a little bit south here. But the defense has picked up the last 3, held their last 3 opponents to under 40%. Even doing that, Adam, they wound up losing to Belmont. They wound up giving up 73 points to Southern Illinois and 74 to UIC. If those teams, just to clarify this point, if those teams can get to 73 and 74, not even shooting 40%, Murray State is going to shoot better than 40%. Yeah, probably land somewhere in the 80s. And last thing, I know Murray State is not, it's an Ohio Valley team previously, and they have not been in the MVC all that long. But I feel like Drake is one of those gold standards of the MVC that always, whenever they play, even at 9 and 10 this year, they still wear that bullseye. Teams still want to beat the heck out of Drake for what Drake has done to them in the past. It hasn't happened often with Murray State. I understand they've only been in this league 2-3 years. But, these are games you get up for if you're a Drake opponent.
All right, Garth and I are teaming up for the second leg of the parlay. I can't come on here, use the term gift. Garth is like, it's my favorite play of the slate, and then just leave it out there. So leg 2, my leg, teaming up with Garth, Murray State -5.5. Again, it just the matchup is not good for Drake here, and they are not in a good place. Murray State's playing great ball. Why would they not continue to do that here? So yeah, let's do that. So one more leg of the parlay. Rob Vino's got 25 minutes to lock it in. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go back. I see some folks talking about this game, and I got to tell you a quick story, Rob. So my Tulane shirt right here was a gift from Bayou Bets. Bayou and I went to. So I called him up like a day before, and I said, "Hey, I think I'm gonna change my flight home. So I have a 5-hour layover in New Orleans. Can you go to a 2 p.m. Tulane game with me?" He's like, "Yeah, I'm in. I can do that." So I fly to New Orleans, which was out of the way, trying to fly back from Texas to New York. I fly over to New Orleans, and he said, "All right, just Uber from the airport to my house. We'll then take an Uber down to the game." So I Uber to his house, throw my stuff down. He's like, "Trig, I've already went to the bookstore for you. You're ready to go." Gives me the Tulane shirt. So great gift. I said the other day, three programs have gifted me gear, and then Bayou has also gifted me gear. So that's where this shirt is from. Him and I go. Actually, it was the year Tulane was really good, and it was probably the beginning of the end for their NCAA tournament hopes, because this was like mid-February. They lost a game to Wichita State, and they kind of like fizzled out that year. But that was 3 years ago. Now we're at this year. However, this game, as I scroll through, it's a lot of games tonight, so I got to find my place here. But the Tulane Green Wave are on the road. They're heading to Boca Raton. I got to go to this place last year, the Ellie, Rob Vino, down in Boca Raton, the Eleanor Baldwin Arena. Only 2,900 seats there. That's a great atmosphere as well when the kids are there, which I believe they're back from spring break. That should be pretty full. I saw Florida Atlantic play on Sunday. I don't know. I got to be honest. Most of the teams in this league don't really impress me. That's why I'm kind of high on Tulsa, because I've gotten to go to a few American Conference games this year. Wasn't overly impressed with Florida Atlantic. Wasn't overly impressed with Temple. Florida Atlantic did get the win. They're going to turn around and lay 11 to Tulane here. I don't know. That's a pretty big number. What do you think, Tulane, Florida Atlantic, and do you have anything on the total in this one?
Yeah, I think where Florida Atlantic is concerned at this point in time, Adam, and the odds makers have this pegged. I mean, but you look toward the over with this team because of their scoring ability. Really good shooting team, really fast pace, really high scoring. Can Tulane defend it? You know, Ron Hunter's never going to come out of that matchup zone, right? So you do have to be able to shoot from three a little bit. You have to really have to move the ball against this particular team. And I watched that game on Sunday, North Texas and Tulane, just to see if North Texas could slam the door on the Tulane offense. The game went 71-63, but North Texas did better offensively than you would expect them to do, which leaves me somewhere in the land of doubt as to how Tulane is going to stop FAU from scoring. That said, FAU is not the greatest defense in the world. They want to do one thing. They want to do one thing only, really. It's score the basketball. They can do it. Can they do it at a high enough rate to cover this type of number? Somewhat questionable. But then again, I have doubts about the Tulane offense, which has been so sporadic. And now you have to go on the road against UTSA. No big deal. On the road against East Carolina. No big deal. They won those two games. But on the road at Florida Atlantic, you just mentioned cozy type gym, maybe not the most ruckus environment out there. But I would think Florida Atlantic finds their way to like 85 plus points in this game. Home games, against Memphis and Wichita. And for those who haven't seen Wichita yet, they're just a monster, as always, on the boards. And FAU was able to get to 85 at home against them, 89 against Memphis in this building. Two of the better defensive squads in the league. I don't know that Tulane's matchup zone is good enough to stop them from scoring. So the question becomes, Adam, do you trust Florida Atlantic's defense enough to cover this number? I can't say that I do. It would lean me toward total. Probably lean me toward over. Money's gotten there already, 153 to 156. Or the more surefire play for me probably would be the FAU team total over. 82.5 against Tulane. I just mentioned what they did against Memphis and Wichita in this building. So to me, that would probably be the best way to look.
Bayou's convinced that the Ellie has like Maui Invitational rims. I forgot. He's told me that a couple times. He is convinced that that building has extremely soft rims. I guess it makes sense a little bit. Florida Atlantic shoots so much better at home than they do on the road. They managed to beat Temple. I was at the Temple game on Sunday. Again, wasn't overly impressed with either of these teams, but Florida Atlantic ended up winning that game, going 3 for 19 from 3. Like, looking back, like the way that game played out, feel like they should have lost. I think maybe we'll talk about Temple in a minute. That might reflect more on Temple than it does on Florida Atlantic, that they were able to sort of just still win that game, shooting the ball that poorly from distance. Yeah, I think you make a really good point. The Ron Hunter matchup zone, which is going to be what he plays no matter what, just not been very good this year. And if Bayou's correct, and those rims are as soft as he claims, which, hey, listen, it's a real thing, right? Every building is different. Every sight line is different. Places have different rims like that. There is an element of truth to that, right? I don't know. I think the soft rims thing gets a laugh, but I mean, just go look at how the ball goes in at Maui, right? I mean, every shot goes in. Again, I'm not saying you should bet on that, but I do think that you should have the venue the team is playing in mind. So in this case, I thought the number was big, but yeah, Rob, I'm with you. I could not take Tulane with the rate at which they're giving up points this year. And knowing that if Florida Atlantic does shoot it better at home, and maybe those rims are a little soft, and suddenly that 3 for 19 from 3, which they still managed to beat Temple with, turns into, let's say, 9 for 19 from 3, maybe the math on that is a 15-point Florida Atlantic win. So, and I think I forget, I don't know what the team total is. I had 84.2 for my projection here. So does that put it over? I think you said like
it
85
does.
or so.
82.5 it shows.
Yeah, maybe the Owls get their points, because I'll note that they did not shoot the ball particularly well against Temple. But again, it's a totally different gym. Bayou says we should do a meetup in Vegas for March Madness. Bayou, you don't want to come back to Central New York? Turning Stone. We got Bayou up here. Another good Bayou story. You got him up here. It was easier for him to get a flight home out of Albany. I said, no problem. I'm going to the game. So it was the year that UConn or Albany was the regional. So I was like, I'll just bring you to the airport, and then I'm going to go to because the games were at night. I think it was the first time he saw snow. And like, I drove him through a snowstorm to the airport, and I'm just like ripping through it because I do this like every day. And I'm pretty sure he was terrified. Like, there was a tractor trailer just laying on the side of the road. I'm like, that's just how it goes up here. Like, don't worry about them. They'll get out eventually. So yeah, I think he was terrified on that ride. Yeah, there he is. Yeah, that was that's just another day here in Central New York, Bayou. It gets way worse when you get out to Buffalo. I've seen, driving from like Buffalo to Erie, I think I've seen 9 tractor trailers blown over in one time. Actually, it was when I was going to meet Brian Power for the Pitt Duke game a couple years ago, and I mean, it was like there was 7 of them off the road. Yeah, that's just how it goes.
Keith, right, really quick, Keith. I don't know if that was a suggestion or if you're really going to be in Las Vegas, but if you are, I will be there at the start of March Madness. I'll be there the 19th to the 24th. So if you're actually going to be there, certainly we could hook up. If that was just a suggestion that the 3 of us hook up, then, I'll be there. You 2 guys would have to make the arrangements, but I will be there 19 to 24. My son's band actually is playing in Las Vegas at Boardwalk Bowl.
Oh, nice.
I think it's called Boardwalk Bowl. One of those nights playing in a room in Las Vegas. So yeah, we'll be there, Keith. If you're there, we'll see you.
I don't know what I'm doing for March Madness. Yeah, I may go to the games in Buffalo. Buffalo's a regional site this year, and I love. They put on that's a really good. Like, I've been to Buffalo and Albany multiple times for the NCAA tournament. Like, but Buffalo does it better. KeyBank Center, where the Sabres play. I really enjoy that one. So I may be there. I may go to Vegas the week before. I can probably get passes to the WAC tournament, the final WAC tournament ever. So we'll see. But we'll be around. I'll be around. If you ever see me at a game, or you're like, hey, I want to go to that game with you, I'm in your town, just hit me up. I'll make it work. I've had a great time with Truman. We went to that Tulsa, North Texas game the other day. I am not going to go to this one, but big time. I will talk about it. This one is I am home finally. I was cruising the Philly area. I was down visiting my sister and my 1.5-year-old nephew for a few days. Had a good time going to games out in the Philly area. So many different options to hit a game. I didn't realize how quickly you could like get to DC, Baltimore. You're in a very accessible area, Rob Vino. You can be like in 5 different big cities very quickly.
Yeah, Baltimore. I mean, I go to Camden Yards quite a bit too. It's about an hour 10 from my home. It's not under, and for college basketball, you have UD, Delaware, pretty close as well. You can get some coastal action in. So yeah, it's very accessible for sporting events.
Central New York, you can't be anywhere quickly. To get to my little town is whatever, but to get to anywhere like quote unquote bigger, I'm 30 minutes from Utica, 30 minutes down to the Dome where this game's going to be played tonight. I'll be on my couch because it's cold as shit here. I'm not going out today. I'll be watching this one from the couch, 9 p.m. The locals will complain, but the ACC has that 9 p.m. national TV slot, Rob, and the Syracuse keeps getting put in it. So 9 p.m. tip here, which people will complain about, but they'll back in the day, no one would care. Now people are out a little bit on Syracuse basketball, so it might affect the crowd. Boy, Syracuse over the weekend. It was funny to me, Rob Vino, the Boston College Twitter was hyping up their sellout. It was all Syracuse fans. So the Boston College finally sold out a basketball game. It was all Cuse fans. And Cuse went in there and managed to lose to Boston College in overtime. It is something that this Syracuse team does better than anyone. Finally get a little bit momentum and find a way to just completely kill it. Earlier this year, they beat Tennessee. They come out the next game, beat St. Joe's, lose to Hofstra. All the momentum gone, right? They rattle off 3 straight ACC wins, road wins at Georgia Tech, Pitt. They beat Florida State at home. What do? Go to BC as like a 6-point favorite and find a way to choke that game at the end. Now they come back to the Dome. I got to be honest, I kind of disagree with this line move. I think this is a good matchup for Syracuse. I think that this is a game that their defense can alter, a game they might be able to score at the rim a little bit, and yet it's moving toward V-Tech. What do you think here? Virginia Tech, Syracuse. Do you think the Orange are live in the Dome tonight?
Maybe we'll reverse this parlay and maybe we could collaborate here, Adam, because I really want to play Syracuse in some way, shape, or form. Now, Virginia Tech, the SMU game last week, I think they caught SMU in a tough situational spot, but they made the most of it and almost won. That's the game where Boopy Miller hit the half-court shot at the buzzer to win for SMU and put the L on Virginia Tech. But Virginia Tech has scored better lately, but they just don't defend. And my options here are, do I want to lay 3.5 with Syracuse, or do I just want to go, sit in front of the television and root for Syracuse to score points at 77.5? And I just feel like they can do that in this game. The Boston College loss, you're right. There's no excuse to lose to BC. In fact, I should probably be looking at Pittsburgh as well tonight, going to BC off a loss. But to me, Syracuse should get the 78 points in this game. Virginia Tech has no problem giving these numbers up. 77, and like I say to SMU, 76 to Notre Dame. How do you get caught up in a game that lands on 165 against Notre Dame? It's just not possible to get to 165 against Notre Dame, but they did score 78, give up 75 against Cal, etc. All these teams are in the offensive range of Syracuse, which I do believe will have a pretty easy time at the rim here tonight. Virginia Tech is not a great rim defending team. The problem for me is I want to lay the 3.5 as well. I just don't know which is the better side. I'll ask you this for my sake, because I'm going to play this game one way or the other. Is it better for me to play over 77.5, which I think Syracuse will get to, or is it better for me to have Syracuse win by 2 buckets, win by 4? 3.5 just seems small in this game. But I think the reason why I'm not tilting that way is because I don't want to sell Virginia Tech's offense short in this game. I think this game could end up with both teams in the 80s.
So we have a third option here for the parlay, which would be just Syracuse money line. Because, I wouldn't play Syracuse money line for clients, but certainly Syracuse money line in the 3-team parlay makes sense. I really do like the Syracuse defense. I think I mean, yes, it was aided by overtime. I can't believe they gave 81 points up to Boston College. That's really just not. And the game before, though, 94-86 is a little bit deceiving because Florida State obviously is going to play a more up-tempo game. They're going to play a higher scoring game. Syracuse really led that game throughout. So it's like, I think they just that 94-86, a little bit deceiving because Syracuse never really had to totally lock in defensively. They kind of always had Florida State at arm's length in that game. So here, this is the type of game I could actually see their defense showing up potentially. But you were saying, Virginia Tech, even with Toby Lawal back, not a great rim defense. And you have to take away the paint against the Syracuse team. They can't shoot. Right. I mean, yeah, they've been a little bit better from three lately. Even with improved three-point shooting, this team's still 33.2% from three. It's outside the top 200 nationally. They're not a great jump shooting team. They're a really bad free throw shooting team, right? Worst in the country. But if you can't defend the rim, it allows guys like William Kyle, I love this guy. I mean, just an absolute electric player, unbelievable defender, great rebounder. But the only way he's scoring is ripping the rim off on a dunk. He's not going to score any way else. So if you can't defend the rim against Syracuse, you open it up to William Kyle actually contributing offensively. And that's a big deal to Syracuse because teams that do defend the rim well, he's not going to do anything offensively because he can't hit a free throw. And he's not going to be able to really score anywhere other than just sort of bullying his way through the lane and getting a dunk. That's how he's going to score points. So if you're going to let him get 10 points just on rocking the rim on you, that is a huge boost for Syracuse, right? Because they don't get a ton of offense from other places. That's obviously Donnie Freeman. It's a totally different offensive team since he's been back. He can get his own points, right? He's averaging 20.2 points per game. Totally different offensive team since he stepped back on the floor. But still, I just think that if you're Virginia Tech and you can't keep William Kyle off the offensive glass or getting in the paint, it opens a lot up for Syracuse. So Rob Vino, I'm kind of okay with either because I think they're going to score their points and I think they're going to win this game. I feel like I've had a pretty good gauge on when Syracuse wins and loses. I don't always bet them because a lot of times the number gets a little bit more inflated for what I want it to be for Syracuse. Over the weekend, I thought it was I thought they would probably win. There was no way I was going to lay 6 on the road at BC. And they obviously found a way to choke that game away. Here, I'll tell you right now, they're going to win this game. I don't, I've watched this team so much over the years. This is the type of game they win. If they win, they probably cover 3.5, but they're probably going to hit their, what's the team total on this one? I've got 79.4 for my projection.
77.5 is the number here. Real quick, Adam, I went through some numbers because I've noticed this a lot recently in handicapping since conference season started. The overall statistics, the season-long statistics tend to vary from what's going on in conference play. How about Syracuse inside the conference? I guess I'll count the Clemson game just for the heck of it. Clemson, they shoot from 3, probably at their norm, 33%. But after that, Georgia Tech, they shoot 37%. Pitt, they shoot 45.5. Florida State, they shoot 40.7. BC, they shoot 39. It's 4 consecutive games where they've been above what their season 3-point percentage is. I think the point you make about Donnie Freeman being back does a lot to the offense, including open things up for the guys. I'm going to say this. It's going to cost us 185 as I look here. Well, 180. There's a lot of 175s out there, so I'm going to middle this up and say 180 Syracuse money line. I think in a 3-teamer, it's the safest play. I think they'll win this game. So, yeah, my end of it would be let's try money line, Syracuse money line. Just win the game at home.
Me too. I think, like I said, I think their defense could show up here. They've defended well. I was at the Tennessee game earlier this year. It was a spot where they kind of needed one at home. They played tremendous defense. If you can defend Tennessee, you can find a way to defend Virginia Tech. And I really like them to win here. So that is a 3-teamer. We've got a few minutes left. So what I'm going to do is this, as I sort of calculate what the odds are on that, I'm going to bring my guy Colin Gregory in. And Rob, you have sort of been
Yeah.
an assassin on these Conference USA totals of late. There's been a couple good ones. The last couple FIU games come to mind. I think they played Kennesaw in one of those games. So Colin Gregory wants to talk Kennesaw State, Sam Houston. Let's get a little Conference USA chatter to close out the show.
Yeah, Kennesaw State has been on my radar, Colin, as far as total is concerned. Antoine Petway's group, they just play so fast. Now, I'm going to say this half jokingly, but half seriously. I played the FIU Kennesaw State game over the total last week. And Kennesaw had been off of, or FIU had been off of a couple of games where they didn't make it over the total. So I played a bounce back theory. It did happen. But the next day, the college basketball gambling scandal came out. And of course, Kennesaw State gets caught up in that net. And I'm like, wow, I don't know if I can play this team right now. I don't know what's going to happen. But they bounced right back and scored 81 against Western Kentucky on Saturday, which leads me to believe that there's probably not a heck of a lot that's going to change. A, the way they play. B, the way they score. Now, what it did do is it took Simeon Cottle out of the lineup Saturday, which is why you wait and see what's going to happen here. And without Cottle, they still got to 81. I still have my questions about whether or not they can get over in this game because Sam Houston has been far more defensive-oriented than offensive-oriented. And I think the odds makers, when they set lines on Kennesaw games, they use Kennesaw as the primary style for how they handicap. I know it's done numbers wise, but I still think that it's done with Kennesaw State first and foremost. Open 166 all the way down to 163.5. I'm not sure that I disagree on the basis that Cottle's out of your lineup and Sam Houston State hasn't really allowed teams to get up and down against them. So it's a clash of wills here. I would somewhat side with under in this instance. Kennesaw State is on the road. I see a lot of money going towards Sam Houston. 4.5 all the way to 6.5 in some spots right now. Not sure I agree or disagree, but probably an under for me in this game. Kennesaw State, Sam Houston State.
I think I agree with that Sam Houston money. I don't think you're going to see guys that were like kind of caught up in a gambling scandal, like just sort of rushed back in. I feel like if I had to guess, he's probably not playing tonight. And if he's out, I think that's listen, like he's kind of your guy that's going to get you a bucket when you on the road, you need to put a ball in the hands of someone on this Kennesaw State roster. It's probably Cottle, right? Like that's, 20.2 points per game. I mean, you're just right there alone. You're taking out a guy that is, well, potentially, I don't know if you are or not, but like taking out a guy that's averaged 20.2 points per game, did not play over the weekend against Western Kentucky. So like, that's pretty notable here. And listen, Sam Houston, this team's grown on me. I wasn't super high on them coming into the year. I actually bet against them incorrectly. Probably the only Sam Houston game I bet this year was earlier this year. I played Wyoming against Sam Houston in this building. They got a really impressive win in that game, 78-70. And I'll note, Rob, they've only had 6 home games all year. They played a lot of road games in non-conference play. This team has only played 6 home games this year. They're 5-1 on their home floor. And the lone loss was to Liberty, which is not a bad loss, as we know. That is the Liberty is one of the better teams in this league. So I agree with the Sam Houston money. I'm not sure I agree. I'm not sure I have a good enough read on this team to actually play it. But like, man, this opened 4.5. I think that was if Cottle is out, which it looks like this move suggests he is. That opener was a very, very low at 4.5, and I would be no Cottle. I'd be closer to 7. So if you can still grab like the 5.5 at Caesars, some of these other books are still at 5.5. That's not a terrible look on this slate. All right, we have reached the end of the show. I've calculated the parlay for everything Rob and I played today. Check out that double the CBB firepower package. But for our 3-teamer, we're going to give that to you right here. We've got the Creighton team total over 81.5. We've got Murray State -5.5. And then Rob and I are going to team up really on really most of them. I think we kind of agree on all of these. But we're going to team up Syracuse money line -180. That comes out to +467, but obviously shop around. That Syracuse money line, Murray State -5.5, Creighton team total over 81.5. We'll see you guys in the morning. Check out our joint package, and we'll be back 10 a.m. to talk more hoops with you. Have a great day.